A very warm welcome to the news in details. Now, on Tuesday, the Ministry of Education announced the marks of students who took the primary leaving examinations and the ordinary level national exams in the school year of 2021-2022. Now, those who passed the exams will start classes on the 4th of October 2022. Take a look. At the primary level, the students passed at an average of 90.69%, while ordinary level secondary school students passed by an average of 85.66%. This means that the number of primary school graduates who passed the national exams this year increased by 7.89% compared to the previous year, while the number of pupils who passed the ordinary level exams decreased by 0.64%. These marks were published on Monday, 26th of September 2022, which is the beginning of the school year. The Director General of the National Examination and School Inspection Authority, Dr. Bahati Bernard, explains how students should determine whether they have passed or not.
Icyiciro cya mbere cyo hejuru gifite agaciro ka gatandatu.
Primary schools candidates do 5 exams for primary leaving examinations, and with the upgrading system that we used, that has 7 categories. The first category is up to 6 aggregates, while the last is 0 aggregate. Students that have passed primary leaving examinations have not more than 30 points for aggregates, which means the best aggregate is 5, as each subject accounts 1 point. This upgraded system applied to ordinary level students, but for them, they do 9 subjects. For those who passed, have not more than 54 points, and top winners have 9 points, as each subject accounts for 1 point when best passed. That's how points are to be accounted.
The Minister of Education, Dr. Valentin Uwamaria, notes that the marks were announced on time. It takes between 40 to 45 days to mark all the exams, and additional days to register those marks and allocating them to schools. We didn't announce the number of schools, but we did announce the number of students, which is over 200,000, hence an addition of 15 days. So when you add 45 days to 15 days, which makes it 60 days, meaning, for example, if the exams ended on the 5th, then the latest we would go before announcing the marks would be the 5th of October, using the usual methods of marking. The reason I'm explaining this is to show you that there was no delaying. Instead, the school year began early so that school can keep being resumed in September, hence avoiding delays in exams for other students that haven't done exams. 227,472 students took the primary leaving examinations, and 126,735 students took the ordinary level national exams. Investors representing 17 companies from the Nordic countries are here in Rwanda to look at investment opportunities in the country as well as the region. Nurieta Gasaro has this report.
This group of traders from Norway, Sweden and Finland are here in Rwanda, presented by the director of their forum, which is Sweden Africa Chamber. The director of this forum, Asaja Skog, says that although the market in Rwanda is small, they also aim for a large market in the countries of the region where Rwanda is located.
Rwanda is very much an entry point because of the safety, because of the good business conditions. I know many companies who come to Rwanda when they want to do business in the DRC. I was in DRC 3 years ago, and the business conditions are not equal to the ones here, I must say. So we are looking at East Africa when we talk about Rwanda. Of course, we also need to talk about the various financial incentives that are available. More and more money is available in the area of sustainability, whether it is the Fonerva or it's guarantees from Sweden or Finland, and even private investors are more and more going into that field.
Philip Lucky, the head of the Rwanda Development Board's Investment Marketing Department, says those investors have trust them because this group came in 2019 and some investment have already been made.
This is the second delegation that we're receiving from the Nordics. The first was in 2019 when we received a business delegation from Finland that came with their Minister of State for Foreign Affairs. This is more or less a follow-up, but from a bigger scale. With countries from the Nordic countries. We have 17 delegates in this delegation, and the whole purpose really of the visit is to explore investment opportunities in Rwanda, but also on a bigger scale they're also looking to collaborate or with the Rwandan companies within the different sectors that are interested here in the country.
Ambassador of Sweden in Rwanda, Johanna Tig, says that after 2 days of discussions that will connect those investors with the private sector in Rwanda and government agencies such as RDB and Minicom, and both parties will benefit from it.
I would say it's the two sides. It's important for Rwanda to know more about the solutions we have to offer. And I really want our companies to get to know Rwanda and the great opportunities we have here. There's so much going on when it comes to driving the green agenda in Rwanda, and that creates so many opportunities. And I think we have to find a match. It's also what I'm telling our companies is that it's such a good place to do investments because the support from the government to make entrepreneurship happen, and you also obviously you have the access to a greater market entering here. So I think it's just a very good place to be.
The majority of those investors will invest their money into projects that reduce plastic waste and plastic trash. Others work in areas such as transportation, renewable energy, finance, technology, healthcare, and among others. Nurieta Gasaru, RTV News.
Local residents in the Mozambican province of Cabo Delgado, especially the town of Palma, are grateful to Rwandan security forces stationed here for restoring peace and security, enabling them to return to and start rebuilding their lives.
On the shores of the Indian Ocean, local residents have returned and are selling the fish they catch. Looking at the way things are now, it is sometimes difficult to remember that not long ago, this was a war zone and doing business was the last thing on anyone's mind. Business was seriously affected because all the investors ran away, fearing the insurgents, so there was no one to buy the fish. Many business owners from China and Tanzania used to come here to buy fish in bulk, and they all left. They ran for their lives. It's not just business that has returned, so too has sports, and a football match was organized between the locals and the Rwandan security personnel stationed in the province. We thank God to be able to play football again because it had been a long time since we engaged in recreational activities like this, having previously fled our homes. We are happy that we are back and thank God and Rwanda for that. The Rwandan security forces would eventually win the game 1-0, and the reaction of the local spectators showed just how much they are loved there. A lot of infrastructure was also damaged during the time the province had no peace, including a power station that supplied electricity to 5 of Cabo Delgado's 16 districts. Cross-border trade with neighboring Tanzania had also been affected. It really hurt us, and I lost everything. Now I have to start from scratch. Our business relies on good security, bringing in goods from Tanzania using this route. At the local airport, order has also been restored and the scars of war are no longer visible, the location having been the site of heavy fighting. The fight now facing the people of the province has to do with the reconstruction process. At the local airport, order has also been restored and the scars of war are no longer visible, the location having been the site of heavy fighting. The fight now facing the people of the province has to do with the reconstruction process.
Representatives of media houses and telecommunication companies in Africa and Europe say they have no choice but to further embrace technology and innovation in the dissemination of information. A red thread throughout the discussions between the different players in this field. Isabel Masozera has this report.
The next TV CEO Africa conference brings together various players in the broadcasting world, telecommunication companies, and other key stakeholders with the aim of exploring opportunities and addressing the challenges facing the industry. Some of the stakeholders in attendance emphasize that digitizing operations is one of the ways to facilitate sustainable development of the sector.
I think linear is here to stay for the long term. Linear is what will fund the many platforms that will be our digital future. But that being said, we are still awake to the fact that there are audiences shifting towards the digital space. It's a fact. We cannot run away from it. So what we realize is that we need to play and play well and translate the dominance that we have on linear onto the digital spaces. We are seeing them as opportunities to get in there and interest the viewers there onto our platforms. Let them know what we're doing on our sites, on our app, so that we can grow our audiences that way.
I don't see broadcasting dying at all. I see a very strong future for satellite distribution well into the future, especially in Africa, because to receive content off satellite for the viewer is free of charge, whereas there's a data cost if you're receiving it over IP. So I think the question is more, how do different distribution technologies coexist with each other, and how do people in the media space start to understand the idea of content monetization being perhaps somewhat agnostic of the method of delivery.
They also believe that there are obstacles to the use of technology in the development of the media. The challenges involved were discussed. Pax Press did a research on the kind of content Rwandans like and the kind of content they don't like consuming. The results showed highest number of Rwandans prefer listening to radio. When it comes to digital, there are challenges in terms of infrastructure, affordability, and connectivity for the low-income earners. Focusing on innovation in a way of digitizing service delivery and leveraging technology to reach their audience is one of the drivers that were pointed out as a catalyst of sustainable growth in this industry.
Most people are watching their news and programs on the smart gadgets, on your phones. That's a fact. So the fact is that we have to be ready for the future. The future is digital. We have to be able to go on these networks. But I think what we lack is a clear understanding of how do we best use these platforms, how do we make good use of them, but also where is the future headed? You know, having a clear picture of how do I maximize my presence on these networks. That's number one. But for me, the biggest worry is how do I make money from it? Because I never have to make money. We all do this to survive. We have to make money from these networks.
Yes, I think that it is very difficult to produce both at the same amount of professionalism. And at the end, we all have a certain budget, and we have to live within this budget. So what we will do at the midterm and long-term perspective is that we switch money for linear production into digital production. You have to take risks. This is something which public service broadcasters don't really like to do, but we have to do it because we have to experiment. And I think if you want to reach young people, you have to let young people do it. So we have to change also a bit the workforce, getting more younger people into the operation who are digital natives, who know the platforms, who know how to produce. And I think this is a switch for the whole company. And it's not only the way you get out the content, it's also the way you produce the content.
The gathering of the next TV CEO Africa congregates people from different countries who work in this sector. It is happening for the 7th time and is scheduled to last 2 days. Isabel Masozera, RwandaTV News.
On Tuesday in Kigali, a national forum on fighting the spread of HIV and helping people with disabilities who live with the virus was convened. And it focused mainly on the achievements and the challenges that are still evident in the inclusion of people with disabilities in programs geared towards fighting HIV/AIDS. Adam Kwizera has this report.
It's an annual forum that brings together organizations and partners standing to fight against AIDS and organizations of people with disabilities to advocate those people to be brought closer to health services. Some of the people with disabilities who participated in this forum highlighted some of their challenges they face, including lacking access to health services.
And here we find that we have a problem of confidentiality or privacy, because you are going to need to tell somebody your condition. If you have hearing impairments, you need a sign language interpreter. If you are blind, you will be needing a guide to go for the medication, and you don't want to tell people. So that means you have to open up and tell somebody that you need to go for the treatment.
First of all, there is physical accessibility. You find out that most of health facilities, being health centers, district hospitals and the like, they have many stairs at the entrance and even within the services, which makes them hard to be accessed by a person using wheelchairs, crutches and the like.
The Executive Secretary of the Association of Persons with Disabilities noted that various institutions should set up services that are suitable for persons with disabilities and be provided in accordance with the guidelines and measures set by the government.
Put in place policies. Rwanda signed the UNHCR. We have a different policies protecting people with disabilities, but if we're looking on the level of implementation, it's not 100%. So we need first of all to implement the policies, but we need also people have to be committed to implement those policies by putting into practice, meaning implementing the programs by making sure that disability inclusion is something which is taken into consideration.
The head of HIV/AIDS Prevention Department at Rwanda Biomedical Center points out that there will be trainings for the health services providers, hence to ease the communication with their patients, especially those with disabilities.
To continue our training, we have to train our healthcare providers so that they can provide all HIV services to the people with disability. Normally, we train our healthcare providers to provide HIV services, but we have to add also how to train how to communicate with those people with disability.
In a study that was presented in this forum, it was found that 7% of people with disabilities live with HIV/AIDS, and the government has provided training for more than 1,000 healthcare workers on how to assist such people. Adam Squizera, RTV News.
It has been observed that women being the only ones responsible for domestic chores in the household can lead to conflict in homes. An approach of both genders working together on such chores has therefore been encouraged by the Ministry of Gender and Family Promotion, though it has been noted that there is still a long way to go for its proper implementation. Take a look.
The people we spoke to on this matter told us that the problem largely stems from a cultural perspective.
It's difficult to implement because most people cling on to old cultural norms and will declare that any man that mops the floor has been bewitched by his wife.
Things change after you marry, and you end up not doing some of the things you had become accustomed to as a single man. For example, I once decided to wash the dishes and my wife was horrified, worried about what the neighbors would say. So now I know there are some things I am not allowed to do around the house. But requiring that women do all the chores also brings about other problems.
As a woman, you mop the floor, cook, and clean the rest of the house as well, not to mention care for the children in general. You end up mentally and physically exhausted, so much so that you are unable to care to the needs of your husband and brings conflict in the home. The woman gets very tired, and in the evening when the husband gets home and wants to get intimate, will not understand how his wife can be so fatigued and refuses to acknowledge the work the woman did.
The NGO Action Aid Rwanda is looking to change mindsets on the matter through dialogue. It's not just the adults, even the children in the home are not allowed to do certain things based on their gender. It all stems from perceptions, and such roles have always been generally accepted by both genders. So we have our work cut out for us. Regardless, we have seen positive results among the families we have worked with in rural areas that were given training. Officials in the Ministry of Gender and Family Promotion believe such changes in the mindsets of families is beneficial for all. It should be understood that both genders benefit from this change in mindsets. There is no doubt that this will be a long journey, but we as Rwandans are confident that it can be done. Figures from the National Institute of Statistics of Rwanda indicate that on average women spend 4 hours a day doing unpaid care work, while men engage it for only half of that time.
Well, there you have it. On behalf of the entire news production team, thank you so much for your company. I'm Jane Mutoni. Bye for now.